stuff anymore, so we go ahead and get started.
Yep.
Right. Yep.
I
So we
believe
call
so,
the meeting
yeah.
to order at 7:05. And then, yeah, so I believe the first thing on our agenda is so Freddie from Open Space is, sorry, I have to accept all of these buttons. Freddie from Open Space is coming to talk to us about their native pollination preservation garden project that they're still drafting up the CPC application, but was going to share with us, and then we'll share the official application later and looking for the commission's support.
All right, so I'll move her over. All right.
I'll change my position.
All right, Freddie, you there? Got you on mute right now.
I am.
There you are.
Hear me?
Yep.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Freddie Gillespie. I'm chair of the Southborough Open Space Preservation Commission, and I'm here tonight to talk about our community preservation application. And one of the things we'd like to do is, I think you're all aware, there's different categories of the for funding projects under the Community Preservation Act. Open space being one, but passive recreation is another component of our project, and we'd like to have you listed as supporters. Saying that a little bit backwards because of timing of when warrant articles have to be in and when we have to meet with other boards and commissions. And I don't have all the application ready for you to see the full scope of it and the cost. So I don't expect you to say, yes, you support a project. You don't see everything. And I also was hoping to give you a PowerPoint presentation, but that also didn't come to fruition by tonight. So I'd like to come back on your next meeting in December 16th, I think it is, 18th, somewhere.
I want to say it's the 14th, but we have to finalize that date.
Okay.
So.
And if that would be all right, but I did want to just give you a little rundown to see if this is anything that would interest you to be supportive of our project ideas. So I don't know if any of you have noticed, there's some pink flags at the library. That's part of phase one. We've been working all summer putting in a flower garden, pollination preservation garden, and that's been done with the labor mostly of volunteers. We had some grant funding to purchase equipment from the library, plants and equipment, as well as the Open Space Commission donated funds and lots of resources. And it's been a lot of volunteer labor over the summer, but it's been a lot of fun. And that's where the recreation piece comes into it, because gardening is a passive recreation activity. I know you've participated with the library's sowing seed program, and the Open Space Commission, because we are focused on native plants, it's a little bit different than typical gardening. And that's where we come in and help people learn and also provide guidance and plants or seeds. And one of the things we did last year, which we are using this library, we'll be doing it. COVID makes everything challenging. We had done it inside at the library 2 years ago. Last year, we did it totally remote, except for the volunteers that did the work. And then this year, we're hoping to see if we can do a little bit of a mix up of that with the COVID restrictions going away. But what we did is we went out, we collected seeds, and now we can actually collect seeds at the plants that are at the library and show people how to do that. It won't be a full-fledged because we just put the plants in, not all of them flowered this year. but we'll collect the seeds and then have some activities on cleaning and sorting and distributing, and then doing a winter sow so that people can have their own plants at home and to also use these plants for other gardens in town. Last year, we had about 20 volunteers who collected seeds, sorted, packaged over 700 packets that were distributed. Over 100 people just participated. And we know that, not everyone planted their seeds, but the goal was there and many people did. We've had many plants being shared and people starting gardens. So it is we think it's a valid passive recreation project. Additionally, the area we're working on had been a neglected, underutilized, not utilized at all, actually, portion of the library property. We plan to use it as an activity area. There'll be art programs in addition to the gardening program, citizen science. And you're wondering what phase 2 is. Well, if you look beyond where we planted, there's some wooded area up against the old rural cemetery. And those trees are in bad condition. We're going to clean it out, clean out the invasive species, replant with shrubs and a shrub layer that is part of the requirements to create a full habitat for this pollination preservation garden, as well as some shade loving plants and spring ephemerals. So it's going to beautify it and also create better habitat and an area where children and adults can participate in our activities, including citizen science. We're working with a professor to do lots of research. He's been working with us since 2015. Actually, all of these plants came from his research. He adopted Breakneck Hill Conservation Land was his first research site. So without having a full project to see, I just wanted to let you know what the idea is. There'll be art, there'll be gardening, there'll be lots of volunteer work and citizen science in addition to other, like one year, I don't know if any of you had children that attended our caterpillar lab where we had, it's actually a science museum that brings their caterpillars to a location so kids can see them and see them in their habitat. It's one of the other types of activities we could have. So there's lots of fun to be had and recreation for sure. And I can go into it more when we have the full-fledged proposal. But I guess I'd just say before I leave, were there any questions or am I feeling any, we're very excited about this. Oh, the other thing I want to mention, if you know the library grounds, there's the new storybook walk, and then that goes down to where our garden area is, this habitat area. And eventually we're actually meeting with Karen Galligan and some other DPW people tomorrow to talk about the connection to the new park that's going to be where the new road construction is at the back side of the library. And that has a native component too. So there'll be a park through to the, our area, which is science-based plantings, but we are working with the DPW and Karen on their portion of planting, and it will continue on up to the story walk. So this place that just kind of, as you got out of your car and ran to the library, you barely glanced over, people are already starting to visit and, ask questions, and we'll be doing more programming there. So thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, whenever you have that, Freddie, if you want to send that to like Tim and I, we can distribute to the whole group so everyone has your write-up.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I agree. It's opening up a new avenue for recreation to those who may not, be interested in the athletics or what have you.
So I did want to say that regardless of how this project goes, whether it gets funded or, the Open Space Preservation Commission would like to reestablish, because we have partnered with recreation in the past. I think when Doreen left and then COVID and, you sort of get out of the swing of things, but we used to co-sponsor, we used to do like kite flying events and nature walks. And, we want to bring that sort of activity level back to a shared, open space commission and recreation. And we do know there's a lot of, well, first of all, there's adult recreation, right? And then there's also children who don't fit into the I play soccer or baseball or football. And we think we can provide a lot of benefit to those children who, may find citizen science to be the most exciting thing they've done all year. And, we can bring that sort of project to them as well as the art.
Yeah, the only thing where my mind kind of was drifting was not to put more work on your plate, but just thinking more ahead to the future is like we have Breakneck Hill, which is nicely located. And then obviously the library downtown. And through my head, I was going, gosh, where else do we have kind of that type of space where you could add additional, I'm on the south side of town. My mind automatically gravitated to that park that's near Fitzgerald's.
Yes.
So again,
Yeah.
just opportunities for the future.
So, and those of you who know me won't be surprised, we already are working on a planting at the Beals Preserve, again, on the north side of town. I get that. I'm on the south side of town, so I'm well aware. We have a project we're working on beginning at the golf course. Each one is a little bit different. Then we have the Halloran property. As soon as we get some access, that's over off 85 near the Mass Pike Bridge. It runs between 85. It's landlocked. That's why we need some access issues. Goes over to Parkerville. And then certainly Fitzgerald, we're looking at some other land there. One of the great things about once we get this up and running, our winter sow project is the number of plants that are created from this. So one woman, we after we took care of everyone from Southborough who signed up, we let other people from other towns who heard of it participate. One woman from Chelmsford created one of these pollination preservation gardens. I also chair the regional, it's called the Metro West Conservation Alliance Native Pollination Systems Task Force. It's trying to create, people heard what we're doing in Southborough and they asked me to come and help them start this. Through 36 communities in the Metro West region, they want to create the same kind of gardens and habitat. And because the reason we're doing it isn't unique to Southborough, we're all in trouble with the collapse of our pollinators. Anyhow, she participated in our winter sow, and then she got some land and she didn't have any money or plants left. And she goes, well, I just planted my winter sow in this big garden. And I said, oh, how many plants did you put in? She said 200. So one person, I mean, obviously very committed, but with the same amount of seeds we gave anyone, was able to create a garden with 200 plants, and that is replicable. We know that not every one of the 100 people who participated grew 200 plants, but we actually had people giving us back plants at Breakneck Hill after they said, I have enough for my yard. So we know that this is definitely something, and what we're trying to do is get people to say, here's some for my yard and here's some for the public garden. And we'd like to have other people, not just the Open Space Commission, say, here's a little space in my neighborhood. I know one neighborhood, they're looking at a cul-de-sac. They go, can we put plants there? I said, well, you have to have permission, but yeah, why not? So
yeah, definitely.
I'll tell you, seeing the butterflies and the birds nonstop in areas that had nothing. I'm literally already at the library. I was there before we planted. No birds, no butterflies, no bees. And just in the end of August, they started to come. So that's pretty exciting.
That is really exciting.
It is.
Yeah, I'm in the Wedgwood Wildwood Association there, and we have tons of common space that, little pond area that would probably be great opportunities. Maybe a cool thing for us to do to kind of build our little association up.
I'll be in touch.
Definitely.
Is there anything else?
No, I think we're good. Thanks, Freddie, for the update, and then we'll look for your doc when that comes through.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, so then we have the activitas and the choate study.
Yep. So Kelvin and Megan are here.
Awesome.
Hey, Meg. Hey,
Hello.
Kelvin, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Hey, everyone.
Hello.
All right, Meg, I'm assuming you want to share your screen.
It's actually, you can have Kelvin share. That'd be great.
Kelvin, I assume you want to share your screen. So,
Yeah.
should be good.
Okay, let's see.
Great. So as Kelvin pulls this up, I'll just kind of give an overview. So, we started looking at layouts that Kelvin's gonna kind of jump in and describe in a second. And as we were starting to look at these, we decided we'd jump right into cost estimates because there wasn't too much change in kind of the overall footprint that we could really make based on the site. So Kelvin's going to run through what the layouts are, some of the materials, the site amenities, and then we'll pull up the cost estimate and jump into that a little bit, and then open up for any questions, discussion, all that good stuff. So Kelvin, take it away.
All right. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
All right. So based off the comments and feedbacks from last meeting, we kind of created this concept. We did take a look at maybe reorientating the softball field layout in different corners to see if we can, get the most out of the field. And I think keeping it sort of where you guys have it right now is kind of like the best scenario. And so based off this softball layout, this is kind of like the existing conditions. So you can actually see that we shifted it slightly. So in this concept, we're replacing your natural grass with infill synthetic turf field. It's going to be multi-purpose, and in the next couple of slides, I'm going to show you like the different layouts that we can possibly have for the big turf area in the outfield of the softball. So we're going to have new 20-foot high ball netting along Corderville Road and along the drive going into the police and fire department. So kind of like along, if you could see my cursor, kind of along here. And towards to the left field, we're gonna have it in the grass field to kind of give you a little bit more ball protection, but you're still able to kind of access in between the ball netting to get on the field to the left. So we're gonna have a new 20-foot high chain link fence backstop with overhang. This replaces your current backstop. New team areas with 8 feet high chain link fence. We did look into having structures, but based off what some of your comments from last meeting, I think chain link fence is probably the best, as there was no desire for any structures for the team areas. And so in number 5, this general area, there is currently some existing utilities. They're kind of like electrical utilities. When I was on site a few weeks back, I saw some kind of like your Musco cabinet there and other utilities. Then there's an existing shed that's kind of behind your current backstop. So looking at number 5, if I could just zoom in real quick in this area. We're going to enclose that utility or electrical area off and provide windscreen around it. So it kind of dresses it up a little bit. and there is a current existing fountain there, and we're kind of proposing maybe you guys will like a kind of a water fountain / bottle filling station there, and that would just connect into the existing backflow and the water line that's currently there. So generally is in the same location. And there's got to be a new shed right in this area. That's kind of replacing your old existing shed there. And that kind of opens up this kind of a entryway in terms of the softball field and your athletic field here. And let me zoom back out. So we're gonna be maintaining the accessibility from the field in the parking lot. So we're keeping kind of like your general layout here with the steps and the ramps. There might be some grading that needs to happen in this general area where my cursor is. But overall, this where the team areas are and the walkway adjacent to the parking lot is relatively flat, with some constraints are like the athletic lighting and the light poles. There's got to be a new scoreboard where your existing scoreboard is, and so where your existing muscle lights, so you got to be padding around them, and I can explain a little bit more why we're going to add padding in this next slide. So generally, this is like the first layout that you guys could possibly have in the spring season. So you're getting a softball field and a 7v7 soccer field layout in the outfield. And you could have both simultaneously. As you can see, it's not overlapping anything. What in this yellow dashed line is actually a temporary outfield fence that you guys could put up during the season. And for something I forgot to mention is that you guys would be having new foul poles too. So the next layout in the spring season, we can actually fit a 180 by 330 lacrosse field. This will be overlapping a softball field, the softball field. So that's something to consider, but you're able to, with the corners, you're still able to fit a 180 by 330 lacrosse field. And for the fall season, you're getting in the right, you're getting a 9v9 playable field and a 7v7 to the left. And this does overlap the, the softball. Then I think this is kind of like what you guys were looking for in terms of the overall, full-size soccer. So we kind of like orientated and kind of wedged it in almost. And with, with the safety zones, we're still able to get a 175 by 360 soccer field. And considering we have existing muscle poles here, specifically this one, this has got to be padded around there, but you still have that safety zone in between. So you're getting that full size field, as you can see here. And then we kind of look towards to a potential alternate and expanding the field. I know there wasn't really a desire for expanding over here, but we did take a look at it, and I think it'll really put the whole athletic field together if we were to expand it to the left. So in this scenario, we will be expanding, adding on turf, and you're able to get that 7v7 soccer field and potentially two 5 versus 5 soccer. It's overlapping kind of like was it east to west, so you're getting 2 fields and 1 7v7. then we would have to expand that for like ball netting along Corderville Road and potentially adding more ball netting at the parking lot just to protect the cars from getting hit by balls. And we did take another look at alternate being, so there's an existing stone wall that can be renovated, improved. So the idea was to maybe potentially removing that stone wall. I know there's a couple signage that are on these piers where my cursor is. We can potentially relocate that. So if we were to remove the wall, we can improve it by putting in ornamental fencing along the road and kind of just feather the grades in a little bit, kind of cleans up the whole entire site. I think I pretty much covered it all. We'll have to kind of, so there's existing trees along kind of this area that in order for us to kind of like make that warm up area, we might need to remove those last 3 trees there, but we are proposing adding in more vegetation, and we did add in a allowance for that in the cost. And I think that's pretty much it. Did I miss anything, Meg?
No, I think that's it. I think let's go over to costs and we can
Okay.
chat about that.
So,
Okay, perfect. So we pulled together a cost opinion, and this is for total project costs. So the numbers that you're seeing, as Kelvin had mentioned, we have kind of our base bid project, which is the main softball and multi-purpose field area. And then you can see below the line, we have, a different number of alternates. So we look at, all right, in the base bid for alternate 1, what would it mean what's the cost to change up kind of a traditional sand and rubber for a different type of infill? What's that cost? Alternate 2 is, all right, well, let's expand, to the left to that smaller field area. What's the cost for that? What's the cost for that? Could be, have a different infill, all those types of things. And then the fencing improvements that Kelvin had mentioned. And then last is, we didn't know if, what level of equipment that you guys needed. So we included it now, and we can talk about whether that needs to be, remain in the budget or not. So as I mentioned, these are all probable project costs, which means that it's construction, it is your soft costs, and it's your contingency. Because it's so early in the process, we don't know a lot about the subsoils underneath, we're working off of an aerial. We carry a 20% contingency in all these items. And then with that as well, when you do go to design, you're going to have your designer fees, your geotechnical fees, bidding, construction administration. So we've carried a 10% soft cost fee for that, for that portion of the work. So these are full all in total what it's going to be. The numbers in gray are kind of this recent year's numbers. That's what we were using based on just the numbers that we had received. We like to keep kind of a running tally of unit costs. And then we've added a 4% inflation number for years after that, depending on when the town would potentially do this work. So as you'll see, that base bid project, kind of softball and the main multi-purpose area for 2022 costs, we're looking around 2.1 million all in. Go adding on, an organic material or a coated rubber material for your infill. It's about, a $63,000 add. That field over to the left, that smaller field, total project for 2022 is around 750,000, and so on and so forth, kind of down the list. So we're confident in these numbers. I think they're on the conservative side at the moment, which is appropriate, especially with that 20% contingency in there. We want to make sure that as you budget, you have all the money that you need and you're not going to have to go back to it. So we like to have a little bit of contingency and a little, conservatism, or conservativeness within those numbers, so you're comfortable going to however you're going to solicit funding. So we do have kind of backup, the following pages gets into kind of the nitty gritty of the estimates. I don't really want to bore you guys with kind of line item by line item, but we're happy to review questions that you have, questions in the plan. And if I think kind of next steps as we think about that is, you know, we would make, our next steps would be revisions to the plans, if you have questions about that, and then updating these costs, you know, appropriately with that. So from there, why don't we start with the plan views like Kelvin's pulling up right now, and then we can open it up for questions.
I feel like one of my questions, I don't know if it's for you guys or for us, the commission, but like, what are the thoughts about fields that overlap with like the baseball diamond? Like how much is too much, or like, what is the play like when you're crossing those different grades? Like, what does that mean for the players?
Jen, that's a great question. So actually, you're not going to actually notice a difference. In this scenario, where you see brown is just brown colored turf. It's the same actual material.
Oh, okay. It's not dirt. It's
so
all turfed. Okay.
Yep, exactly. And
Okay.
this graphically, this could change. Like instead of having like full, you know, brown turf, we could have, you know, cutouts, brown cutouts at the bases to signify. But for this, you know, your intents and purposes, this is all turf. It all feels the same underfoot.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it could be green if we wanted it to be green, and like she said.
Right. Okay. Nope. That makes sense.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the netting and the stone wall, actually, because we live in a town that very much values aesthetics. There's a lot of people who hate those lights, and I'm just picturing throwing up nets. I think you said they were 20 feet or 30 feet, 20 feet nets. So are there, you know, we don't, again, opinion of the commission, but we've had the softball field there for years. I don't think the balls going that far has been an issue. And certainly we worry about the kids and soccer balls, but we've never had an issue so much. I think it's, from in my mind, it's always almost been more about the kids and go running after balls. So are there alternatives? Because I just picture looking at Woodward School and telling people that it's going to be, you know, 20-foot high nets in front of it and getting big pushback on that. And then I also wonder if the netting between and I know you mentioned that we didn't have a desire to expand to the left, but I think we definitely do. I think we always pictured maybe a multi-phase project, but eventually the whole place being turfed, the two fields being turfed. If that netting between softball and that the left side's really needed, because we don't typically have, granted this could change, but we don't typically have the two different sports playing at the same time. They kind of have their own allocations. So just curious for other people's opinions about that, and if there's alternatives to the 20-foot high net.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the same thing. I don't believe the netting is necessary. Just with, we don't have anybody cranking balls like that on the field, and with the kids being the age they are, like Kristen said, it's more just making sure they're not running into the street. So I guess my focus, if we're thinking about a protective barrier across Corderville, would be more reestablishment of that stone wall, just to make sure it's secure, rather than putting up the netting. That would just be my hot take on that.
Yeah, I think people would have objections to replacing a stone wall with a fence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's it kind of depends. The stone wall is sort of decrepit. If you were to replace it with a nice fence, then maybe there's a discussion to be had there. But
do we know if there's any historical significance to it? You know,
the gate, I imagine the gate which is over on the left-hand side. But even then, to be honest with you, Tim, like they just replaced the stone wall right at the intersection of 85 and Main. Like if we were, you know, if that would almost set the, like if we were going to do it, then perhaps there's a way to integrate that sort of design and extend it down into this area, right? That could be an extended project, right? So I think the orientation of the field being further away from the street, when you think about the playing, and it's not a softball issue, it's really a soccer issue is really what it comes down to. The orientation of the field away from the street, I think certainly facilitates, you know, not having as much or potentially netting along the back, along the Corderville Road line. But the size that they're showing here it qualifies as an 11v11 FIFA field. Like you can use this field for anything all the way up through high school sports. What I've seen is that really you run into, the high school tournament, it may be not wide enough for a high school tournament game, but you could have, it qualifies for just about anything. It's exactly sort of what you would hope to have from a design perspective. So along those lines, where, the netting is probably most desirable is the sides, really, the side that would face the entrance and exit to the safety complex, and potentially the other side, because those would be the sections that the goals would be there, and you'd have shots on the goal, and now you've got kids potentially running into the parking lot to retrieve a ball, or you've got the ball potentially being up on that right hand side. It's hard to sort of envision completely because it's an overhead picture, but so from that perspective, you would contemplate like, hey, we probably need something there. Now, how tall does it have to be? If it's set further back away from where the goal is, you probably have relative size and whatnot. So and I've seen all manner of configurations based on the places that we go, where there's even on some of the grass fields have netting. So I think there's plenty of potential options there, but I think you would most certainly want to have something on that safety, on the side of the safety facility, just to keep the ball in.
And just to be clear, because the 7x7 and 9x9 setup was interesting. Obviously, I know we want 11 on the 11v11. We would line it to also be able to support 9v9, correct? Because right now we have 11v11 at 9/11. I just want to make sure that 9v9 and ideally 7x7 also have alternatives too.
So you can fit a 9v9 within 11v11, but I'll tell you, there's not enough 11v11 field capacity in town, right? So when we get to the spring and lacrosse has the Saturday mornings, that makes it challenging. So you can, not only could you fit the 9v9 in there, but if they were to go back up to one of the other pictures, you could see, there you go, right there, you can actually fit in different configurations, right? So remember, the entire surface is turf. It's really just how you want to orient the lines.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. I definitely understand we don't have enough of anything, but we don't have any turf for 9v9 or 7v7. So I just want to make sure.
Oh no, we have 9v9 turf. I got to use the 9v9 turf the first game of the year when we had to split our field at 9/11 with lacrosse, and they it's actually lined. So it can be there if so chosen. So
you get lucky.
But anyway, long story short, you can fit it in there, Kristen. Like it's configurable.
Okay.
We think it just more for the commission, I guess. I know we're spending a lot of time on soccer, but are we also thinking of lining it like a 9/11 with lacrosse and with field hockey?
I think you have to have. I think you've got the key, Tim, here is you need to maximize the.
I just want to make sure that was clear. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to maximize the utilization of the field to because of the lights and the setup. So whether it's lacrosse or I was doing some side research. You can play bocce and pickleball, all kinds of crazy stuff on turf. So, so like I think you multi-turf. It has to be multi-purpose. It has to be sort of anticipated to be utilized in a variety of different ways and groups.
It's been a little while since we've had this discussion, so I can't believe I forget, but the lining, right? Because we're talking about all these options, but if we get the lining, as part of the turf, then it's going to look crazy, right? And be kind of difficult. And I honestly, I forget, even despite all the hours we spent talking about it, how the lining works and our flexibility in changing it up, because I don't think it could get a little out of control.
Yeah, so for lines, you can either have permanent lines that are stitched or cut into the carpet, and that's, to your point, and doesn't give you the flexibility and things around. Or you can paint your lines. And painting obviously, gives you the most flexibility. You can paint lines, you can remove lines, they'll fade, all that kind of good stuff. So, you have the ability to do all those things. And I think at this point, from a pricing perspective, it's not going to matter too much whether we put those in permanently or whether we, decide to paint. But, I think for you guys, providing the most flexibility would be in paint, because you can change them up per season. If, you had, for some reason you had to host a big soccer game and then a big field hockey game on this surface, you have the ability to take some lines off and put new lines on, so it's not overwhelming. And the layouts that you're seeing here that Kelvin put together, this layout that we have right now this is the largest rectangular field that you can fit in this space. We've maximized length at 360. That's the largest, the greatest length for all sports. And then we're kind of held by that bottom light pole, that bottom right light pole, just where it is. We didn't include potentially relocating. We could, if we wanted to try to gain even more space, but yeah. But then that's what it would take is to relocate that guy. So if that's not on the table, we will leave it right where it is.
Yeah. I don't want
those sizes are great.
We don't want to open up any reconfiguration of the lights.
That works.
Don't say the L word.
And then Kelvin, just go to the 180 by 330 layout, because that kind of shifts it. Yeah, this one right here. This is your second largest rectangular field that you can fit in with that space with the 10-foot runoff, that we're showing here. So, that fits, boys lacrosse. It fits kind of the small girls lacrosse size that are minimum dimensions. It fits field hockey, and really, it fits a soccer field. It may not be your varsity soccer field, something like that, but it certainly can fit an 11v11 kind of smaller soccer field, but it works. So you have the ability to fit everyone on this, but I think you still want the ability to shift things, which most likely points you towards paint.
Yeah, we have paint we have paint at 9/11, so it seems like it works.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now, I think one question as we think about kind of equipment, like care equipment, and you guys, following the meeting, please take a chance to run through the list that we had on there. But we can talk about paint equipment. Now there's a lot more kind of robotic paint equipment. You kind of set it, let it run for an hour, and people are off doing their own thing. So if those are the kind of the maintenance equipment that's helpful to build into the budget to make these more realistic, we can consider that as well.
What are we doing, guys, at 9/11 right now? Is that just DPW has the equipment?
Don't we outsource that?
we outsource that. Yeah, all the testing, and if we're fluffing the carpet and stuff, we outsource that.
I mean, if we were to ever be able to move forward, it might be interesting to do a cost comparison of outsourcing versus what it would cost to have equipment. Again, that's down the road, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
It's also manpower too, and hours on an understaffed DPW, right? Like adding more onto their plate versus just outsourcing it and getting it done when we need it done. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's also, I think, a buildable fee though, built in. So
yes,
I wouldn't be too concerned on that. So that's way down the line.
So when we talk about all these different configurations of fields and different sports, I'm just wondering like how many is too many? And I asked that because Kristen, we were at a field earlier this year. I want to say it was like, was it Walpole or something like that? Like we drove a good distance. The field had so many fields painted on it. I sat there and I was just like, I don't know how the hell anyone knows what's on this. Like it literally football, like soccer, all different directions. Like the entire field was like a
if it was it Walpole? Was it across the street from the prison?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, brand new facility. Yes.
Yeah. So we played
and like
there.
I think there were 65 different fields painted on that, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
It was
the kids are fine.
disaster.
The kids are okay with it. The kids, once they get going, it's not even they just play.
Okay.
It's not even
Interesting.
That's not, like, what you do is, the first thing you do is you get the instructions, what color?
What color are you? Yeah,
What
okay.
color
Gotcha.
line are you? And then that's it. And then honestly, they go,
And it
right? The
plays
harder
fine?
part
Okay.
at that field is that actually the fields are so close together, the whistles, like, they get distracted by the
Gotcha.
different
They're on
whistles.
top of each other.
But that was a great complex with the turf and then the grass in the back there. Oh, that was fantastic.
Okay.
So as you guys look at this, is there anything that, doesn't make sense? Is there anything else that you guys like to see, on the plans? Kelvin, why don't you flip to the one with the alternate in it as well?
Could you just talk about the, when you say so obviously we have some decision points, right? So, when you look at the total cost, back to Kristen's comment on the phasing, I don't know like how badly we need the left-hand side in the first phase, right? Because it's going to be a lot just to get this off the ground with the current sort of cost estimates that are there. But can you talk about the fill? Because anytime you talk to anyone, the first thing they get to is okay, turf field, what's the fill? Fill's not good, blah, blah, blah. So what's the, so we would certainly be looking at what's the right fill, and, do they still is there still like a pad underneath? Like what's sort of the, what's sort of from a safety sort of perspective, what's sort of baked into this, and what would be part of that sort of additional options?
Sure. So the base bid option is, I'm just looking at my own just to make sure. So we have a 2-inch fiber, all right, and we have a resilient underlayment underneath it, so a pad. So I find we are kind of, our company likes to do pads. Pads make the field the most safe. If there's an area that, is under-maintained or something like that, that field is always safe for people to play on in terms of impact attenuation. So we have a pad in there. The base bid mount is for traditional sand and crumb rubber. I think that's what you guys have over at 9/11. That's, the majority of fields. I'm not going to go into a whole kind of thing.
No, you don't have to go into coconut and walnut and all that, but what's the sort of, what's the base sense of that? What's the alternate? Like when you say that there's an alternate, what's that sort of material expectation?
Sure. Yep. So that alternate is price-wise, they're the same. You can either go with an organic infill. So whether it's, the coconut, whether it's the pine, there's a lot of different options out there. But that's one option, and kind of similar pricing is if you did a coated rubber. So a coated rubber is basically that crumb rubber, and it gets encapsulated. And that's what, let's see, who has it? Like Harvard has it. A lot of MIT has it. A lot of other places have it. And it's just, it's just taking rubber and it's basically putting a cap over it. It's taking something that is already safe and making it even more safe, if you want to kind of think of it that way. Typically it's a color green, which, theoretically kind of, keeps the turf a little bit cooler. But in reality, if cooling the turf or keeping the turf just slightly cooler is really you'd want to go with an organic infill as opposed to a crumb rubber. But there's trade-offs because, organic infill is supposed to play a little bit more like natural grass, but in those early spring season months, then it's playing a little bit more. You're a little bit more wet, in those spring seasons, early spring, when you may be on those fields or want to be on those fields, whereas crumb rubber or just encapsulated rubber will dry out faster. Potentially melt snow a little bit faster, things like that. So you have the cost there for both. And it's there's a cost difference, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not enormous. So typically what we will do is put in a base bid for, crumb rubber, and then have an alternate, for, like we've kind of outlined here, for whatever, alternative infill you're looking for.
And then as far as like sourcing materials and
And
whatnot,
kind of
is
to
this,
so a couple of years ago when we were starting to dig into this, I know there's a lot of questions around like safety and is it safe for the players on the field and stuff like that. And just wondering, you can go out there and research whatever you want to find for an answer, right? There's all different sides, but just wondering if even hearing from you guys, like what is the latest and greatest and the best resource when we get questions around safety for the players.
Sure, yeah, so most of those questions come for, like, how the big topics are, you know, is crumb rubber safe? You know, which it is. You can look at the EPA's most recent study showing that, you know, there's nothing that's coming out of that, or nothing can come out of that to cause, you know, heightened concern, anything like that. You know, heat is kind of the next big thing. And just when you're having, you know, kids playing on this surface, because synthetic turf just naturally does, it has higher temperatures than natural grass. In the Northeast, it's not for very long. And it's a huge difference between when you have a sunny day and then when a cloud, you know, goes in front of the sun, you see this massive, you know, heat change. So those are the things that, you know, are going to come up that you need to consider, and then just decide what's the best, you know, system and surface for you. But in return, you know, in regards to, you know, health and human safety, you know, all the systems, you know, are shown as being safe.
From a procurement of materials perspective, does your opinion assume that we would be sourcing through whatever might be available to municipal buyers in the Commonwealth, or how do you estimate sort of the procurement costs?
Yeah, so this assumes just a typical design bid build. So it's not assuming costs coming from, you know, any sort of buy board or anything like that. That's certainly something we can consider. You know, we don't typically recommend it on the turf side. We have done it on the lighting side, which obviously doesn't apply to you guys here. All through a buy board, you can only buy the actual material. So then you have to, you know, you have to bid the actual installation anyways. So, you know, we found that from a cost standpoint, I don't know that there's a huge savings unless you're really dedicated to one manufacturer that you have to have. You know, doing a traditional design bid build, you know, gets you the best price for turf.
You were talking a little bit during the presentation about kind of the area behind the softball field where there's, you know, some machinery. I gotta say, some of that I didn't follow, and I'm curious how much of that is yeah, I heard something about like the water refill station and things like that. I mean, we're gonna have to trim the fat wherever we can. How much of what you described in that section of the field is kind of a must-have, and what's a nice-to-have?
So, you know, the real cost that you're seeing there is just actually fencing around the equipment that's back there, and then moving that shed that's back there as well. So, you know, if we you know, didn't do all the paving and things like that you see there, that grayish material is just new pavement to kind of make that area behind just a little bit more pleasing, easier for people to have from an access standpoint. So I think it's desirable. I think we want to make sure that anywhere, we always want to make sure that we provide accessibility, you know, to the field, to the team areas, that we have the right, you know, distances in between things so people can move, you know, appropriately in and out of the space. But I think that's, you know, it's not a large cost in there, but it's certainly something as you get into like real design and we start to kind of decrease that contingency, that's a spot that could be looked at. I mean, you know, in terms of, as you said, kind of cutting the fat, you know, this area, the way we, you know, we have these kind of curved areas that come in around, we're really kind of going to the edges of the existing slopes. But, you know, if Kelvin kind of moves through this, like that kind of area to the far right, that's, you know, like the curve of a D, you know, those are areas that don't necessarily have to be there for the rectangular sport necessarily, but it's also great spots for, you know, warm-up areas. It's great spots if you have, you know, a lot of little kids, you know, you bring little kids to play in these fields. It's a lot of smaller areas that you can capture. It's not necessarily gameplay, but it's going to give you the most flexibility. So those are the things that we can start to think about, like, all right, well, maybe that warm-up area or that, you know, small area for, you know, younger play or something like that doesn't need to be there. Maybe it can be natural grass. So those are the things that we could start to play with and kind of, you know, narrow down the areas of turf.
I think to add into that, Meg, you kind of touched on it, is the accessibility piece of this one, because I think once we put a shovel in the ground at this site, moving forward, that's going to be a big topic, just because on our end, and Meg, I shared with you that report, the town's making a significant push for accessibility. So especially with the dugouts and behind and access from the parking lot, and then obviously turf all around, just accessibility of the entire site. I think it'd be a no-brainer behind it. And Kristen, really, I think we just lost her actually, but it's just improving on what's there, pretty much, correct? I mean, maybe the water fountain's not that, if I were to take anything, it maybe be the water fountain. You know, but the Musco cabinets could use a sprucing, they always can. And the shed is necessary just because of storage of softball and other, you know, camp equipment, softball equipment, event equipment. There's generators in there, everything like that. So to answer her question, if she's watching now on YouTube, it's more of just improve. It's more of just improving what's already there. So.
And I think like those little, like the water thing, like they're like, I mean, they're in the breakdown. I looked it up, but they're like little things, but they're like little, like that would be really nice. You know what I mean? And like, just, we're spending this much money on the field and there's a water fountain there. So if we could just fix it up and like bring it back, that would be nice. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, but also when you're looking at cutting the fat or things we seem unnecessary right off the bat with the netting, you know, 130,000 plus going around. So that's pretty lean fat right there to take off, and, you know, not canning a $5,000 fountain that everybody can benefit from. So
we'll get the fountain sponsored.
I like it.
There we go.
There you go. By Ken's dressing. So.
All right. Any other questions that we can address? I mean, I think if you'd like, we can update and take out, you guys tell us, we can take out that netting along Corderville and update the cost estimate, you know, accordingly. You know, I think that's kind of really the only item. So that's pretty easy. I mean.
Well, actually another one. So I'll put it to the commission. Foul poles.
Yeah.
Do we want those? We don't have them now.
Yeah, I think we could get by without foul poles.
I think if we were playing this more league, Matt, you know, league games on this field could be necessary, but just being the men's leagues and then the younger girls, I mean, I'm not sure, because we're not hosting, you know, big games. So.
Yeah. Okay. So one other question is following up on the ADA stuff. So all the synthetic turf, this is considered fully accessible, right? Because I know we get a lot of that whenever we touch fields, they want like walking paths around the edges, but like the turf is considered fully accessible, right?
It is, yeah. I don't think MAAB has said like specifically that it is, but I mean, it meets the standard of what an accessible path would be, which is to have, you know, a firm, stable surface. So this would certainly fall into that category.
Okay. And like, and this is, and I think I saw like, it was the like the ramping, that's to make it accessible, right? To get up onto, like, so that there's no like ledge between the turf and like the pavement or whatever, right? Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions?
I just want to say this is great, Megan and Kelvin. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah, no,
it's helping us with this.
It's great to actually have, like, you know, some math, not you know, some math and some sort of like science that, hey, you know, there can be something that's done with the field here, and you could find a way to utilize the configurations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Proving everything we've talked about for the last 3 years.
Yes.
Check one.
Check.
Great. Well, why don't you guys take, you know, a little bit of time, you know, a week or so, if you want to pour through that estimate, you know, any more, we can make, you know, the updates that you had mentioned, but, you know, take out the foul poles, take up the ball netting on Corderville. And then we can finalize it. We'll finalize those plans. And then we can get those back to you guys for your use. And then I think that'll probably wrap up the study. But, obviously we're here, we're a phone call away, as things come up, any questions that you guys have. So we're just happy to answer anything like that for you. And we'd love to be back with you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much.
All right, great. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Hey, you too. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it fits.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw it come across, I went around the house. I'm like, I told you it fits. It fits.
You know what I'm talking about. So I guess, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought we were always looking at Nipper at Choate 1 the whole time. Were we not? Were we thinking of phasing that out?
So the smaller piece there,
Yeah.
I think the conversations that we've talked about were, well, first of all, it was what was possible, right? So check, we got that. Then the next part becomes how much does it cost? And then what can you reasonably sort of expect to be able to accomplish? And so to me, it was always sort of the first priority was the right-hand side and the second priority is the left-hand side. So, now if you get the left-hand side included and we think about a few other things that we can use it for, then that now the phasing is hard, right? Because they're already there. It probably costs less to do it all in one shoot than it would if you were to phase. So it'll come down to what we think is, feasible from a.
Well, that's a good point though. And I'm sorry, if you couldn't tell from the beginning, I'm having problems with network and my phone to charge. So I cut out there at the end, but that if we didn't cover it, Tim, that's a question on, can they maybe give us a sense of the price difference if we phase it versus do it all at once? Because at the end of the day, we need it, right? Everybody, I'm dealing with right now, I literally have 4 reschedules to do, and so does so many other people in town between COVID and the weather. And I would hate to see any one age group ideally we're satisfying all age groups. So I think it would be compelling if we could argue, hey, we're going to save X amount of money and we might get more younger parents potentially if we were able to do both. So, but obviously we're bound by what we can raise.
Right. My guess, Kristen, is you're talking 20-25%.
Yeah. So and does the town have the desire to draw this out or just get it all done at once? So there's so many factors that go into it, but I think we should understand, Don, to your point, approximately what kind of price difference are we looking at potentially if we phase it versus just doing it all at once.
Yeah.
Tim, could you pass that on if it wasn't mentioned when I was off there?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
What are our thoughts
because
now?
there's even enough space. Like when you look at I have it up on my computer here, that the tilted field, there's even enough space to actually have room for the parents on one side. Cause that was sort of one of the things, if you put it up against the road, it was going to be where do you put the kids and where do you put the parents? And there's actually room.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, to the left there, Don, isn't that big enough for pickleball?
No, it's absolutely big enough for pickleball. Are you kidding me?
There you go. We catch more a demographic that may otherwise.
We just got
we
just got the senior vote. That's what that
was.
was.
Well, look, what we do is we honestly, no kidding, right? We fix the wall and you put a something that you can actually walk along there. And then you put I don't know if the crosswalk from the senior center is right in front of the senior center, but you put the crosswalk there. And then you buy a little shed where we can put the pickleball nets and then they can pull them in and out. I was searching it. The UK, they have pickleball on turf everywhere up there.
And we were driving by, Kaylin pointed out that in Westboro, they've got those pickleball courts across from the lake. And she said on Saturdays, it's absolutely packed. So actually, we joke, but that really should be part of the plan because that's going to get us more support. It truly is a facility for all ages, not just, youth sports.
So just one question on this particular location, Tim. Does the space that we're looking at here fall under the restrictions of you can't use it during school?
That's super gray. I think it's just like Finn, I think. I mean, you look at it now, it's being sworn by gym classes. So, but usual circumstances, it's not even touched usually during the day unless it's beautiful out.
I just wonder because
so
of
are
its
you thinking
status,
towards,
because it's part of the Choate Trust, right, or something like the
I
part to
think
the left.
It's technically not school grounds, but they are using it, right? Just like the baseball diamonds are technically, the Mooney complex is not school grounds. Like the
correct.
school, I
That's
think
what I
has
mean.
the
It's like Finn is the same
playground,
exact
but
thing.
yeah, so
And you like
But
to
if
hope that, hey, we're giving you access to turf. Let the senior center use the pickleball courts during the day. You'd hope it'd be.
That would be the balance, right? That would be the trade-off.
Yeah, and I think also the location you're talking about is, you can still put a full class, especially because it's turf, even grade, everything.
yeah,
You could separate them enough where it's not going to be
on
an
the right
issue.
side. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Completely.
it's a legitimate question, but I just think so. I mean, a fair argument could be made with the tennis courts at Neary. Kind of the same exact thing. It's on the grounds, and pickleball specifically and tennis is out there, all the time. Pickleball specifically during the mornings, and we even dealt with that this season of splitting time with the schools to make sure that they had priority, but also that our programs could go. So.
Yeah, we gotta get that night pickleball set up, Tim.
Oh, don't worry, in the works.
We want to sign up. 9 o'clock doesn't work for some of us in the morning.
The commish, yeah.
These guys were great. They did a really good job.
Yeah,
They're quick too. It was great.
that was really great.
Yeah. So I'll follow up with an email with them, but it's, so potential costs for phasing if we did. So realistically, I mean, what are we talking about year-wise? Like, we try to give them an idea.
That's such a hard question.
Yeah,
Because
I
it's
think
also, I guess, theoretically, you could just put their 4% out.
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, you'd have to do that. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. So that's almost something we could figure out on our end.
yeah, we
but-
totally could. They gave us the scale.
Yeah. Because that would be a separate bit, obviously a separate bidded project. So,
Yep.
Hey, Tim,
and
while we're on,
then,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No. I have a question about the fields, but it's off topic, so let's finish this one.
I'll just mention pickleball. It doesn't sound like that would be much more of a cost, but I'll just make sure. Especially if we're talking about paint, temporary paint. That was my question to you guys. I guess feeling on that, temp versus permanent.
The temp just sounds, I feel so locked in with the permanent when we don't know, trend wise.
To be able to flex, like whether the sport interest changes or the grade sizes change and stuff like that.
And we literally laughed about pickleball, how many years ago? It was a big joke, and now it's it's here and it's real. So that makes me hesitant to lock in with permanent.
I guess it kind of going what Jen was saying, there was lines everywhere. I'm just thinking of the softball side of, having the cone for field hockey going out, having the box for soccer going in, and the crease for lacrosse as well. So, but I'm also on the side of permanent. I just think it's cleaner, it's less work, get it in, be done. But
I also think we're seasonal, right? Like, I don't necessarily, while I get this opens up for more people, in general, we have, we've sat down before, we kind of have agreements on 9/11 with soccer and lacrosse, and I don't know.
Well, just keep in mind too that we're going to need to maximize the utilization of the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
gonna
that-
change. Yeah,
Yeah.
that agreement.
So and it may not just be, it may be outside groups. Like the other piece that we get with this particular location that we don't get with 9/11 is that we'll have full flexibility as to who can, we
Yeah.
won't be restricted as to.
Yeah, we'll have control.
Yeah, and we'll have pricing opportunities. We'll have a whole bunch of things that we don't have at the other location.
But
So,
we also don't need to decide that now, right? Because didn't she say
No.
that there wasn't much of a price difference?
But the other thing too is I think it's probably a mix, right? You probably permanently line the foul lines, or maybe there's maybe
That's
the
what I was
outlines get
wondering.
permanently lined and you don't worry so much about the innards until that we have some room to maneuver. What I wouldn't do is I wouldn't thread it, like that sort of like permanent, like.
And I guess my only other thing was that I do like the idea of that warm up spot with like the top right.
Yep.
I think it would look awkward if we cut it and kept some of it natural.
Well, it's great for storage too.
Yeah, come the winter, roll everything off, kind of like 9/11.
Well, winter, or even like, sometimes it doesn't affect lacrosse as much because the lacrosse field's inside the soccer field, but like you need a place to put the lacrosse nets, and you need a place to put the field hockey nets, and like you need to push the soccer nets out of the way so they can play softball. Like you do need some place to put stuff to make it work. And then you need and then when it comes to like spectators, you have a flat uniform level ground that is potentially safer than what might otherwise be.
And
Did
I
we
can't
get any-
imagine like squaring that off is really gonna save us all much money, right?
That's the other piece too. It's like in the long run, what are you really saving?
You do need it for ADA compliance, which I'm assuming it's dumb to say, but they've accommodated for any ADA.
Yeah, we
accessible
talked about
needs.
that while we lost you, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Megan had our actual ADA report, so she had that on hand. So she looked through it before she did everything.
Thank you.
Score, I know, again, it's kind of small pieces. History of the scoreboard would there be any issue getting rid of that? Was that an Eagle Scout project? Was that something, do we know? Because they're proposing an electronic one, which obviously would be wonderful. But that softball scoreboard, I just didn't know if that was a past Eagle Scout or something that we would get a slap on the wrist if we got rid of.
I
don't
don't
know,
know.
but
I think it predates most of us.
Yeah, we can see if there's any little plaque on it. Funny story, once we were coming out of Woodward and the numbers were all on there were a lot of numbers were on the ground. So we said, oh, Ryan and Kaylin, let's be good. Let's help pick them up. So we pick them all up. And next thing you know, like, kids got slugs all over them. So I don't think it's, if there's not a little plaque or something, I would think we can probably ask a couple people, but it doesn't seem to be something that's really very treasured.
Would be a good Eagle Scout project one way or the other.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, random. Speaking of the storage shed, do you guys know we had a second generator that lived at Woodward in that shed?
No.
Nope.
What's
Yeah, I
it
didn't
for?
either until, I don't know. We were there for trunk or treat and DPW moved the generator. They're like, no, your other generator's already here. I said, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So I don't know if that was from when the lights were plugged into a generator or.
Yeah, that's what it must be.
Oh,
We got in trouble.
yes.
Okay.
Doreen and or Brian were like going down and babysitting the generator while the lights were out, and we got our hands slapped, I think, for that.
If you're wondering, we have 2 generators in our department. So
Alrighty.
Call
we
you
put
in the night.
2 concerts a night we could do. A festival.
Multi-location.
There you go.
I like it.
Summer nights cross town.
Nice.
All right, cool.
All right. Yeah, I feel like anything else, people can just like email Tim.
And this is how are these materials available? Are these materials available for people to look at, Tim, or how does that work?
What do you mean?
Like the what they displayed, is that something we could share with folks? Like, so we,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, like, so Kristen and I went and met a couple, or we did some, talked to Shrewsbury and a few places. And then there was a few people in town that we were talking to gauge interest and what could we do about raising funds and things like that. And I think Kristen, this is sort of that first box in the list of, hey, you got to have something conceptual to like share with people. And I'm wondering now if we've got something for that group to take a look at to get some feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
these are
no time to be present. Why wait?
Yeah, I can get this on our website, but also the town website under rec commission. If you look
yeah,
at
I
the
think we
sidebar.
could post these ones. Yep.
You know what? We should be careful though. Not sharing it, but positioning it, because people are gonna, if we don't have some sort of context and that we plan on fundraising and everything, all of a sudden they're gonna be like, well, look at rec. Isn't that convenient? They just put out a $2.5 million, project plan. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that's my only thing. I think we need some context with.
We could just label it as study or something, or put a cover sheet of what exactly it is.
Yep, and they could be
Oh, no.
posted with tonight's meeting minutes too, as like, these are our documents from the meeting.
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, great. Then I don't know how detailed my notes are. I'm glad that'll be another one.
Yeah. Yes.
I was like 9 by 9, 10 by 10.
Yeah.
It's just as long as you get all the pickleball comments, we'll be okay.
I've definitely got the pickleball comment.
You will forever be known now as Don Pickleball Dumont.
All right, so we've got, I know it's getting late, but like, so any department updates for like fall events or wrap or anything, Tim?
I heard through the grapevine that you've got the Wachusett bus running again.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And it's pretty much full. I think we only got like a handful of spots. So that was great. Ski Ward, not so much though. So Ski Ward, I guess we'll make it official tonight. Not that I think many people are watching, but we're putting it out tomorrow. Ski Ward changed their entire model this season. So they're not allowing, if you go lessons only, you can't have free ski. And they're restricting the days where kids can snowboard on the mountain this year. So, and all of that falls on the days that we usually went. So our traditional day with Grafton that we've been doing for, like a decade, snowboarders can't come. And then if it's kids who just want to go to ski, kind of lift only stuff, that's not possible this year. So we're actually going to be partnering with Neshoba. So an extra 10-minute. So we're going to put that out as an option, and we'll see how that's received for lessons and free ski. So Joe's working on that. So kind of a bummer, if I'm being honest, just because Ski Ward's in our backyard. But
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
What was the rationale? Did they offer it or just they changed it?
What do you mean? Well, of
Like
why
what?
they're changing everything?
Yeah.
It's something. My guess, it's staff. If I had to guess, the trends of every other place that you look at. They said they want to spread out the snowboarding lessons. That's my hot take of it's probably a staffing issue when it comes to the snowboard piece of it, but not allowing kids to just go for free ski, that kind of baffles me. So, because that was a majority of when we're looking at Neary, I believe, it was a majority of those kids. Woodward was mainly lessons, so we didn't, is what it is. But again, the Wednesday that we traditionally went, I believe it was Wednesday, Tuesdays or Wednesdays, the snowboarding one's going to be an option. So we're taking away a whole group of kids right there. So kind of strange, but Wachusett's up.
Maybe
So
it'll
that's
bounce
good.
back next year too. So who knows?
Yeah, hopefully.
Or
Definitely,
if we're not the only program that drops, right? Maybe it will come back next year.
Yeah, and that's why, Jen Anderson, the director of Grafton, we kind of combined forces on that. And we're like, listen, we're bringing up probably close to 100 plus kids. Like, can you at least make this exception for us? We've been coming for years and years and years, and they were holding firm saying no. So Grafton canceled their skiing altogether. So at least we're going to put out another option with Neshoba. They're super excited to work with us, and they were being super flexible with Joe today. He was on the phone with them a lot. So we'll see how it's received, but we'll be putting that out tomorrow. That ski ward's a no-go because a lot of parents are waiting to buy their tickets. Because mainly everybody we heard, they were like, we want to buy our season pass, we'd send our kid, but that wouldn't be an option. So we kind of want them to have the chance to still go get it.
Well, thanks for pursuing it and not dropping like Grafton. Yeah. I know it's not a slight at Grafton. I just mean, thank you guys for taking
No, I get it. Yeah, for sure. Outside of that though, let's see. So second session of RAP started this week, off and running. I do have it in front of me. I did have it in front of me. 27 out of 32 programs are running. So a really, really good session for us. But the cooler thing is they're not just minimums. They're like really, really stocked with kids. So a lot of, karate is huge this go around, basketball is huge this go around, soccer is huge this go around. So we're seeing a kind of a return of really, really good numbers. So I was really encouraged with that. We had to flip some stuff around because of everything going on in Erie. It kind of worked to our advantage, not to our advantage, obviously, but worked in favor, given the holidays and given the days and certain classes that were canceled. We were able to make everything up before the holiday kicks in at the end of the year. So vendors were very understanding there. So for vendors who shorten instead of doing their 5 weeks, they have to do 4, they're extending their classes, no problem, stuff like that. So no real issues, no real pushback on anything that we had to do. We ended up canceling 2 days of wraps at Woodward to accommodate their vaccine clinics, one happening tomorrow. So we worked with the schools with that. They were really going to shove us in a corner, but we kind of took the stance of give the kids the access to the actual clinic. And again, it was one of those things that if we pushed it out, we weren't going to run into any issues. So we just made the call to cancel on those days. I know the admin office there was super appreciative that, we could get out of their hair with that. So that was really the only, I'd say issue, but it really wasn't an issue. So Joe took care of that. He's really getting those relationships down with the schools already. So it's comforting. It's really good, the rapport that we have in the office right now. Outside of that, we didn't have Heritage Day last time we talked, right? It was about to happen, I think.
Yeah. We
Okay.
We met beforehand.
Yeah, you don't care. You're in Hawaii, Jen, so it doesn't matter.
Yep.
So Heritage went off excellent. Crowd was huge. Parade was very well attended. Weather was perfect. It called for rain, but it ended up being a gorgeous day. I think some of the stuff that we took away, the bouncy houses, petting zoos, face painting, stuff like that was missed, but it didn't really stop the crowds from coming out. So we had a really, really good attendance. Vendors were wonderful. Some of the vendors who have been with us, specifically like the Tupperware lady and the alpaca farm gentleman, stuff like that. So it was their best Heritage Day to date with sales and with people coming to the booths. So vendors are very, very happy. Yummy Mummy sold out of all of her product with like an hour and a half left. So they were really good. Everything was great. It was great having that coffee truck there. That was on point. So we'll hopefully bring that back. But Heritage Day was wonderful.
My only suggestion on that one is, I kid you not, they bring 2 trucks. I think every parent was psyched to see the coffee. We were all in line while the parade went. We're like, is the parade gonna come before I get in line, get my coffee? And it's funny, but that was definitely a big difference.
Then after that, we had our first trunk or treat event, which was insanity in the best way. We really didn't know what to expect. We ended up with 10 vehicles is what we ended with. I have the list in front of me of who we got in. So Board of Selectmen did the trunk, police did one, fire, Kinder Group came out for one, Southborough Extended Day, Chestnut Hill Farm, Ted's Towing, Friends of Rec, obviously, and then we had our table as well. We estimated, public safety estimated 400 people came through. We had at one point, I think the last person was waiting almost a half hour in line to get through. So it was packed. It was wonderful. A couple people ran out of candy, had to run out to the stores for more. So very well attended. Then we had that movie night after, and we didn't know how that was going to go, but probably close to 100 people stuck around for the movie, probably 75 to 100 people. So that worked great. It was really cold, but the kids stuck it out. It's great having the lights on the field, flick those puppies on, everybody was gone within 10 minutes. So that was great. The parade, having fire before us, I think was ideal. They said it was their busiest parade they've ever had, which, moved down to us afterwards. So all in all, that was a great success for that day. So kudos to Joe, because he took that under his wing as soon as he started, kind of made it what it was. And then with the Gobble Wobble is next. So we are assisting the friends, within our means and when we can. So right now they got 300 people signed up, which is about standard, being a couple weeks out. So we're expecting probably the next 2 weeks they're going to see the push of it. Most definitely the week up, just so people see the weather and what's going on. Met with them with public safety, kind of facilitated that meeting. We did that last week with Jolene Chapsky, who's the president now. All good, details are all set. Public safety has their plan all set. Banners, everything the friends need to do is pretty much on point. They're pretty much locked in. They were able to get their shirts. That was the biggest thing. They ordered their shirts from overseas and they started panicking, and they ordered them by boat to save money. So I'm not sure they saw what was about to happen, but they arrived at the factory last week and they were printed yesterday. So they're going to be shipped out soon. So shirts will be here on time, but everything's falling into place. We met with Board of Health as well to talk about the use of trotty, or just of keeping people out from congregating inside. So where that's going to be the only real difference is it's kind of going to be a Congo line of getting your registration stuff, your shirts, your bags, whatever is needed, and then you're going to shoot out the other side of the gym, and pretty much everyone's going to be hanging out outside for safety's sake. But Gobble Wobble is going to be great. We just need that good weather, and it will be very, very good, and I'm excited for it. But other than that, yeah, RAP started, RAP is underway. Couple auxiliary programs started up. So men's basketball is back. Worked with Faye. We got time at Faye for 2 hours on Sunday. And then they're at Finn tonight. Actually, they're playing right now for 2 hours on Tuesday. The school is working with us. I appreciate it so much. So Faye Gym has actually set up a desk right now, but we were down there today working with facilities and getting the layout done. So they're allowing us to move off the desks when we show up, have our program, and it's kind of great. We have 45 guys and gals right now playing in the league. It pretty much comes down to a desk person. So they showed us how to set them up, put them back, take them away, everything like that. So we're appreciative with the schools working with us with that. But men's basketball is going, or adult basketball, is going. Adult hockey is coming back as well. So the 35 plus crew is coming back to St. Mark's. So that is booked. It's scheduled to start the Sunday after Thanksgiving. Who knows if it'll be cold enough because it's an outside rink. But they exceeded their minimum that they needed to make the league run. So that's definitely a go. So we're excited that's coming back. Obviously, like we talked about, skiing's coming back. Joe just finalized ice skating lessons as well. So that's going to be coming back. It's not going to be at St. Mark's. It's going to be at New England Sports Center, I think in Marlborough, the skating facility there. They got us a really good deal with a couple of options of different days, much more affordable than if we were to do it at St. Mark's with that rental fee. So that's going to be announced. Pickleball started up upstairs. So pickleball is back inside. And then he's got about 4 or 5 other on his desk, just waiting to finalize some stuff. We're looking into spring, obviously now. He's planning summer. We just finalized some pricing on summer. We just put out some surveys on summers. You guys may or may not have gotten it. It's kind of targeted on what families went. just to gauge again with field trips and how people are going to feel heading into next summer, but also just because we didn't do field trips and it had such a successful summer, we just kind of wanted to gauge the interest of bringing those back, as it does drive cost and stress of us and transportation. But we're starting to think about summer, which is nuts. We already got the okay from the schools tentatively to go back to Woodward, so we're good with that. So summer's full swing. Joe's already working on session 3 of RAP. He's just about done from what I was hearing today, because we want to publish that, get that out there in the next brochure. So he's great. So Joe's killing it with the program piece of it. So very happy in that regard. But general update wise, that's it. That's really it before we get into the projects. So
I just want to say that Kaylin and a couple of her friends are doing the bowling. They loved it. They've only gone
Good.
once, but they loved it. And I said, all right,
Good.
now do your job and talk it up. And make sure kids know how much you love it. But it's unique and different. And I think she was all excited because Apex was decorated for Christmas. So just nice job on a new idea.
yeah, it was funny. We just a side note. So Joe was going to go. Obviously, why wouldn't you want to go bowling while you're at work? But some of the days at Neary didn't fill up, so we gave Belinda the opportunity. She's the monitor over there, to take them bowling, and she did. Turns out she's like a shark. She's got her own ball, everything. She plays on the weekends in leagues, anything like that. So she's having a grand
I'm not
old time.
surprised, but that's amazing.
That's exactly what I said. That's exactly what I
Well,
said.
the kids, and not that, I mean, I think the kids would have had fun with Joe, but they've also known her forever too. So good.
Exactly. So,
Cool.
but yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like at Finn, one of the days is close to 90 kids we have after school between 3 programs. So the numbers we're seeing now, it's encouraging that people are starting to come back. So it's good. Projects, cool.
Yep.
Just keep rolling. Okay.
Yep.
Mooney status quo. We're still in queue. We're still waiting. So nothing on that one. Neary, it's funny what happens when you apply pressure, especially legal pressure. So Neary's back on site. Island's back finishing up. So they are trenched halfway up the road. I believe they're just waiting on inspection right now before they backfill what they dug. So there's that piece work-wise. So Island's back in action, and that is getting to the point where it can be before connection. And then Calander, I know I sent you guys the email, but we were very, very happy with that bid. Obviously coming in as low as it did. Once you take into account the contract administration piece with Traverse, we're about between 130, 140 grand underneath our budget on that one. So that was tremendous. I'm excited to have Alan back, North Turf back. As I mentioned, they did the Petrie, and we all know how that turned out, especially this season. So I'm super excited with that. Obviously, the price is great. I think it kind of puts us in good measure with CPC as well, giving money back in order for us to ask for it back to do something else. And Jen, I didn't know if you want to talk about the funding piece, just because you handled that.
Yeah, so we raised CPC last week. We went back to talk to them about both lighting projects, because both of them ran over. So CPC, actually, I just got an email tonight that Freddie Gillespie, who's the contract consultant for CPC, reached out to our state rep who provides guidance. So the guidance is that CPC is not allowed to fund overages, and we are not allowed to go back to the town to ask for, next town meeting, to ask for money to cover overages. So it sounds like CPC can't do anything to help with the, I think it's 25K or so. 23. Okay, 23K over. So now, Tim and I were texting tonight saying we need to start conversations with the town to figure out what does this look like and what are our options. And if we want to, or if, I don't know, there's like, so the CPC consultant gives us advice and what other towns are doing. So we can also potentially ask our own town council for advice or what they think is within the laws of the governing body of CPC. So I think right now it's probably on Tim to poke around a little bit and see what's available, like what other funds, like we paying a lot of maintenance, all the fees collected for fields go into the general fund. Is there money there to help cover these overages? And when
Is there
we
a concept behind why it wouldn't fund or wouldn't be, I mean, I wouldn't automatically fund the overage, but if the overage was for a reason outside of the control of the project, like, is there a reason why they say they?
So yeah, so it goes back to the like the legislature around these tax dollars, how they're collected and how they're expended. So, and because it was a town meeting vote, so that's what I asked, if we could go back to town meeting with the overage and cover it. And they're saying like, it's basically the summary I got was it's like scope creep almost, and they won't pay for scope creep. Like the funds aren't allowed to be used for that, but that's where like,
So what happens in the case of the Calander project where we do not utilize the funds?
So
like,
whatever is not, actually, there's a lot of projects on the docket for CPC that have funds remaining that we've been going, or the CPC's been going through to figure out where it stands. Any money that is not spent when a project is closed out, it goes back to that CPC like funding bucket and can be redistributed. So like so this Calander comes under that extra 120 or whatever will go back into, I think it came out of the recreation or open space bucket for CPC. It'll go back into it to be redistributed for another project.
Can I ask Jen, it's my understanding, I think I have a wrong understanding. Does Southborough have a recreation bucket, or are we under that undesignated?
So there's and I forget the exact wording now, but there's some sort of like open space or recreation bucket. We do have one.
I didn't know if we had a specific, I was just thinking back to the last town meeting. It seemed like it was coming out of undesignated, so I didn't know.
So it also depends on like what funds have been burnt down or not, right?
Okay. Yep.
I think it's like the housing bucket has a ton of money in it because nobody's asked for any of those projects, right?
Yep.
Historical has nothing, right? We've spent all that and more. So
yep. Yeah. And just so we know that the overage for you guys, it mainly comes from National Grid. The estimate for the pole that we got was accurate for a single pole. What the electrical engineer, and I kind of dealt with that on my end, didn't take into account, or even if he did know, in order to get the proper service, which we knew we could, as he said, and it was true, we need to update other poles to handle that wattage coming in. So that's, you know, for NERI, it's almost a $13,000 expense to bring that power over. And what we originally were quoted at, I think, was 4 or 5. So it was significantly more. And then we already knew we were going over on that bid. We took a vote on that to handle the overage on that out of revolving, as it was not that high. That was taken into account, that low estimate. So that's just context. I don't know if that was ever explained of why we're over so much. So, and like Jen and I were talking, it's just not a hit that we want to take, obviously, absorb at one time. I mean, I think arguably, you know, if we really were strapped, we could, but you know, we just take some time to rebuild that, and we've been taking a lot of hits. So just trying not to do that.
Yep. And I think there's
especially
like
if we got the other things coming down the pipeline,
or like pulling it from multiple different funds. So I think that's what it's in Tim's court to go start asking those questions and talk to finance to see what our options could be. Cool. Any movement on Longblad?
So Longblad, I talked to Karen briefly on it. She said there was some preliminary engineering work that was done that she was going to gather and get to me. I haven't gotten it to date, so budget to do Friday. So I have a feeling that's why I haven't heard it. But I'll keep poking on that.
Okay. So then since we last met, also we've met with capital planning. Don, you want to give a recap of that?
I don't know that we really had, I think we had a few questions, but I think the review of the capital budget was, I think it went pretty smooth.
It was very
They went-
positive. If
yeah,
I can
they went
interject, I thought it was very
Yeah,
positive.
yeah. They went around the table, and I think we explained, we had put the field turf in there, but explained that that was a placeholder and that we really were going to be looking to fund it through, raising funds and whatnot. And otherwise, I think there was a couple of items that were like, you don't even have to put these on here, whatever. And so no, I think we got out of that pretty clean.
Yeah, I think the one other takeaway, it sounded like they were interested in us like packaging up the next couple projects and sending them through together, which I feel like we've had some over the years, like mixed messaging, like break them all up into individual warrant items or like however we handle it. But it seemed that capital sentiment was that they should be packaged together so that, it gets voted through together and it's not picked apart. Which I thought was kind of interesting feedback to us.
And also, they didn't really balk at the idea of like a 10 grand placeholder once we get into rotations, which was great to see. They kind of picked that out. It seemed really favorable. So that was also encouraging.
Yep. And then I guess kind of like along those same lines is so our capital plan is in there, but we also need to get our budgets in for the town budget for town meeting warrant, right? So do you have those budgets, Tim? I mean, like, so our budget is basically just salary.
So it is, but I also wanted to throw something at you. So yes, our budget is salaries. The good thing of Joe being new is that he's coming in at a rate that would have equaled out to what we were supposed to pay out this year, if that makes sense. So there's no increase for the program coordinator piece. We were asked to work off a 2.8% increase of salaries. That's obviously well yet to be determined on what's going to be done. But all that calculated out is just 144,977 in salaries, which is a 1.2% increase, which is pretty standard when it comes to that. The two things, so these are due Friday. So, and I already kind of talked to Mark and Brian about this, that I kind of wanted to throw at them, get their take. And I feel like it's blasphemy for rec to put another line in outside of what we already have. Obviously, the other one's 9/11, having that payment in there. That payment last year was 10,258, so that was put in same percentage, no increase. The two things I was going to float by him was one, so Trails Committee is under our umbrella, as we know, but also I think for all of us who have been here for a couple of years, Trails is pretty significant. It's starting to be kind of a significant committee. So we've been funding all of their requests out of our accounts. And I think it's starting to get kind of gray. I think it's starting to kind of bend those rules with a lot of it, especially when it comes to the conference, conference membership stuff, tools, maintenance, things of that nature of, publishing a bid of like public meeting notices, things of that nature. So I asked Trails to put together a preliminary budget of what they think they may have. They got that to me a little while ago. So I'm going to put that forward to get Trails their own line item. I know I think Trails have been looking to do it for quite some time. I'm just in the feeling that it's time, just because, they're in front of the selectmen a lot now too. They're trying to expand their committee. They're looking to add members. And it's, again, no secret, the scope of what they do in town. And it's short money. It's about $3 to $4 grand is what it's looking like. But still, that's $3 to $4 grand coming out that we have no return on. So that's money we're eating every single year. So it's the conversation of if it stays underneath us or if it gets moved to DPW, because it kind of falls more under their purview when it comes to field maintenance and things like that. So that conversation is going to be had, but I am going to put that in as an item, and we'll see what happens.
I think that completely makes sense. I mean, you also like look at last year, how many more committees came forward asking for like a couple grand to cover like meeting notes and like all that stuff. Like,
yep.
I think it's completely warranted. So, especially with all the work that they've been doing. So,
no, it makes perfect sense.
And then the other one I was going to add into was playground inspections. So we've been funding those out of, third-party inspections, professional inspections. We've been funding those out of revolving. I don't think it's gray. I mean, we use the playgrounds for programs and things of that nature, but it's a hefty expense. But also to add in the schools as well, to kind of take that under our purview, especially if it's going towards us when it comes to ADA and all the studies that are coming out. So I talked to Fantoni on that, and it was, in the past, it was something DPW did, but it was something that schools did, but it was something that rec did. So again, we're getting into that shadowy area of what is. So hoping to bring that to the forefront again. So I had the official quote done from the provider that we use, New England Inspections. They're pretty much the best in the state. They do the entire state and the islands. So that's $3,375 to get all the schools and all the public playgrounds. So that was going to be the other ask I was going to put in as well. So those would be the two additional things, and we'll see what happens.
and are those inspections annually?
Yearly,
Or-
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
I mean, that's just the right thing to do.
Yep. Yep. I agree.
So the total budget, I don't know if we want to vote on it, but the total budget request for FY23 would be $161,610, and all in all,
Sorry, I think we should vote on it. I think we're expected to vote on it.
Yeah, I know we are. So, you have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the budget in the amount that Tim just quoted. For,
Second.
All right. So then roll call vote. Hanson, yes.
O'Day, yes.
well, yes.
Dumont, yes.
So then you're
I
all
apologize, I don't have it up on screen. I got two different laptops right now, so I'll send that out as well, so you guys have a hard copy.
Okay.
To look at.
That works. And then the other thing I had on in here was we were gonna so Tim had sent around like the final quote for the programming tent. It actually came in lower than we thought it would. So now that we have the official final quote, just want to take a vote on that so that Tim can order it and purchase it whenever makes sense.
Yeah, so the holdup last go round was we were just confirming it could be put up on the pavement, which it can. In order to do it, we needed to buy the proper plates that the poles would stand on for the setup. So the adjusted quote, taking into account the 6 plates that we need for the footings, would be $6,250. And that's for a custom tent with our logo on it.
Wow.
Yeah, they're pretty nice.
And we're just getting one.
Let's deal with this, and I'll tell you what I was about to tell you.
Any questions on the tent, or we want to take a vote? All right. So
I do have one question. I do have one quick question.
go for it.
Like, is there any sort of discount if you got 2 instead of 1, and would there be value in having 2?
I think there would be a value in the long run. I mean, I think we've been talking about using this a lot, just the idea, we were actually talking about it today with the schools, but like, I think the value is that camp's going to use it. I bet you senior center will probably use it. Heritage Day will use it. Summer nights we're going to use it. So I think it's going to be used significantly. If we had two, yeah, we could space that out and spread it about. But I also think maybe we see how the first one works out and then go from there.
Sounds good.
Because we can even
Like I said,
save money and not throw the logo on it. We can save, you know, $800. It'll be even cheaper.
Yeah.
But it's nice to be
I'm
gaudy.
I don't want to, oh, I think it's definitely necessary. I don't want to hold up the vote by any means, but I'm just curious if when making this type of purchase, if you do realize some savings if you buy, two at a time versus one. Again, I don't want to hold up the vote or the purchase, but then again, we could make the vote. You could inquire because it's not like you're purchasing the tent tomorrow. And if we find out, there is, then we may just want to reconsider. That's all.
So, I mean, my 2 cents and coming out of the business of printed tents like this, like there's usually no cost savings because it's 2 individual items, right? It's not like you're buying more of something. It's actually 2 separate items, 2 separate printings. So
I guess I like the thought process, but I guess it comes down to necessity too.
Mhm.
Like if we feel, especially with summer, like, okay, we need another one, like then maybe we cross that bridge, but you might as well start with one and go from there. So.
Yep.
all right, so someone will make a motion.
I make a motion to approve the budget required for the purchase of a tent for use by recreation in the town in the amount quoted by Tim.
I can second that.
All right, so roll call vote. Hanson, yes.
O'Day, yes.
Laval, yes.
Dumont, yes.
Cool.
What I was going to say is the big tent that we got is they're no longer allowed to be used because the guidelines shifted because of the crazy weather. So now any outdoor tent that we use has to be able to withstand like hurricane winds and like all this stuff. So the ones that the schools used and the ones that we use do not. So their permit wouldn't pass with the town anymore. So yay.
Oh, wow. So glad we didn't buy one of those.
A good thing ours can be taken down very swiftly. So
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
Cool. Thank you.
And so I had on the agenda vote on pay rates, but I think we did that last time, right? Yeah. Okay. So that was just a mistake, copy paste mistake. Any master plan updates?
Hey, Kristen, I feel you and I have been trying to connect on this. I don't know if I owe you anything, where we're at this point.
No, it's with me. So our next meeting is next Wednesday. Comparative, I actually just reached out to Mimi yesterday or today because I don't know if y'all know, but the last like 3 weeks I got sidetracked. My daughter was sick, and then my son got caught in the 5th grade COVID outbreak, and then my husband got COVID from him. So it's been a fun couple of weeks. And then I made Jen a close contact through SEDP, which is kind of funny because I texted her on Saturday before Halloween to like let her know what was going on. Because Ryan and our 2 sons play together at Southborough Extended, and then the next day she's like, "Oh, you meant I was a close contact."
I was like, "Oh yeah, that sucks for you. Sorry, Kristen. What can I do to help?" And did not acknowledge that I was a close contact. Now,
meanwhile, I was kind of reaching out to say, "Hey."
Yep.
Anyways, so long story short, we just got that one section. It really is on me. Like Tim, I might have a couple of questions for you, but it's building out the historical information about our facilities. So I restarted that up. It is my personal goal to get this done and ready to present next Wednesday, which is our next meeting. So, if anything, I'll run it by, we won't have time to vote on it, nor do I don't know if we're finalizing next Wednesday, to be honest with you, because there's some other sections that are still being worked on. But, at a minimum, I'll run it by you, Jen, and Tim, or I could send it to people individually. But I think people like the idea of adding the history to those fields and areas that don't have, or that are named on behalf of someone. And I got a little tip on George Mooney Field, on how I can track down that history, for example, because it's not online, which kind of underscores even more the value in doing this and making sure that we capture and remember why we named and dedicated certain facilities after individuals or groups of individuals. So Ryan got out of quarantine today. Ron gets on Thursday, so our life is getting back to normal a little bit here. So Tim, I'll probably will be reaching out to you in the next couple of days, but nothing specific that I'm looking for right now.
Cool. So then the last thing on our agenda is to approve meeting minutes from October 5th, which are, Don wrote those up for us. So I sent around the link tonight. And then also October 18th, because I had posted for the capital planning meeting, we didn't have quorum. So basically the minutes say we didn't have quorum, go look at capital planning's minutes. But those are the two links that I sent around to you guys tonight.
So Ally, I can make a motion to approve the so noted minutes.
I second.
All right, and roll call vote. Hanson, yes.
O'Day, yes.
Well, yes.
Dumont, yes.
Awesome. So our next meeting, so second Tuesday, puts us at December 14th. Does that date still work for folks?
Yeah.
And I think the brunt of that conversation will actually be the ADA report that Tim summarized and sent to us.
That works for me.
Okay.
Did everybody get that? Just to be sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Or I did, at least.
Yep, oh, I have it too.
I know
Alright.
ADA wants kind of a, just to back your minds for the next meeting, they kind of want a direction of what we want to take by the end of December. So I guess we have to kind of decide on the 14th how we want our recommendation of how to tackle it.
So I think the 14th, like if we all pre-read that doc, it can be kind of a little bit more of like a collaborative working session to figure out like, what do we think? What do we, yeah. So we can at least have a draft of something. Okay. Cool. Anything else then? No?
Good.
All right. So motion to.
Can I just, I'm sorry, can I just clarify, how do we want to post that presentation for Activitas? Do we want to do it with the minutes or do you want me to do it separate?
Oh, I guess like I won't, in theory, I won't post them until December, right? When the minutes get posted, but I was going to just submit it as attachments to the meeting minutes.
Okay.
Right?
That's fine. I just want to make sure, just in case I had to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can all give it a little thought, because again, there's no time like the present, right? This is a long journey ahead, as Don and I learned from sitting down with Shrewsbury. And so, you know, the sooner we start getting out there, the better, and gaining some support, which I do know, like I can't, to every single time we go to a turf field, every single parent, which is basically every away game that we go to these days, you know, every parent is commenting about it. So, you know, there's no reason to sit on it in my mind. So maybe we can all give some thought to what are the next steps and then talk about it in December.
Yeah, we could throw on like, what are the next steps there in December? So you have the documents from Activitas in your town email accounts. Like
Yep.
those are considered public record. You could share those with whoever, it doesn't matter. We were just saying like, how do we post them? So they will get posted with tonight's meeting minutes when the meeting minutes go up in December. So
That sounds good.
And then I would assume we're probably going to get something from Meg, just striking out at least the netting and stuff, just because that is a chunk of change. So that'll
Yeah.
put a 1 instead of a 2 on that number.
right, we can post the revised numbers.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so then so motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Second,
All right, roll call vote. Hanson, yes.
O'Day, yes.
Well, yes.
Dumont, yes.
Awesome.
Anybody hear from Dave lately?
I was actually wondering that. He's been a little bit MIA recently, so
Yeah.
I'm
I know he's
happy
been
to-
at the golf. I know he's been at the golf course, but maybe he forgot about us. So.
I'm happy to throw him a text and just.
Oh, yeah, I don't have his number. Just check in on him.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right,
Tim,
guys.
thank you, and
All right.
Joe.
All right,
And
thank
please
you.
Please pass our thanks on to Joe. He sounds like he's doing an awesome